Hi, welcome to The State Room, a podcast dedicated to covering the key issues and events that will define the future of Arizona. I'm your host, Scot Mussi. Today on our episode of The State Room, we're going to be talking about energy policy, the green scam, and the need to provide a reliable, affordable power for Arizona ratepayers. This is a debate that's often very confusing to a lot of voters, and that's largely because everybody has a stake in the process, whether it be the utility companies, the green energy industry, interest groups, and nonprofits that often are funded by the utilities and the green energy industry, all claim that they have the plan, or what they're trying to do is provide reliable, affordable power. Oftentimes it all sounds the same. You always have to, at that point, you have to peek under the hood to find out what they're really talking about to get straight answers. Because right now, when you look at what's happening, we are going through a set of rate increases here in Arizona that have not been seen in decades, with another slate of double-digit rate hikes currently being considered at the Arizona Corporation Commission. All thanks, in reality and in truth, to the very, very green scam policy and green energy commitments that we've seen adopted here in Arizona. Joining us today in the State Room to talk about the green scam agenda is Dr. Ralph Heap, State Representative from Legislative District 10. Ralph's a fourth-generation Arizonan, a surgeon, and now is a candidate for the Arizona Corporation Commission. Ralph, thank you for joining us today in the State Room.
Good to be here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so you're now running for the Corporation Commission. For those that don't know, that is the body that regulates our public utilities, our largest public utilities here in the state of Arizona. You've been in the race now for about a year, a little over a year.
Correct.
Has it been everything you dreamed it would be? What have you been seeing on the campaign trail? I mean, what do you see out there? You're out there trying to talk about these issues. What's kind of the perspective you're getting from ratepayers and from voters on what's happening at the commission and the race you're in right now?
Well, you know, campaigning is good in many ways because you're meeting some of the best people really in these LDs, some of these people that really care about the country, people that really love the country. So you really do get the opportunity to meet a lot of great people. And I was a little surprised that people are a little more aware of some of these energy issues than I thought they would be. I think it's pretty commonly believed now that this Green New Deal is not to the benefit of the people. And I think people are concerned about it. And so that was a little bit of a surprise, that just the knowledge that, and I think people are starting to relate the increased rates that are being demanded as being associated with the Green New Deal. I think traditionally the left has tried to sell us the idea that green energy is not expensive, that it's the cheapest energy, solar, they're always promoting that. But I think people on the campaign trail that I've talked to realize now that green energy is expensive and that's related to all these rate increases.
Yeah, because it's not isolated. When you go and look at the various rate increases, it isn't just one electric utility in Arizona. It's all across the state. And so you're talking to everybody facing these, in this case this year, our two largest public utilities, double-digit rate hikes. Over the last couple years, there's been multiple other rate increases. So it's everywhere. And so but it's good to see that people have figured out and are starting to tie the two together related to that and to the Corporation Commission itself, the body that regulates them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I look back, the history of rate increases in the state. I can't find any 4-year period of time with anywhere near the rate increases that we've had at this period of time. I mean, this is isolated, and it's way more than we've ever had in the history of the state. So, and that correlates pretty well with the fact that over the last 4 or 5 years, we've gone to the Green New Deal. I mean, they're clearly related. And if you look at any of the blue states in the country, the more penetration of green energy, the more they pay. I mean, California's 54% green. They pay double what we pay for electricity. The Europeans are paying triple, 4 times what we're paying. And what we learned with the soccer is, with all the people that are coming here, can't even afford air conditioning in Europe anywhere. Why? Well, because they have too much penetration of, they just can't generate the power with the solar and the wind turbines.
So when you're looking at Arizona here and you're talking about the Green New Deal and also this term net zero and these other terms that are thrown around, what does that exactly mean? What's going on here specifically in Arizona related to this green energy transition that's been getting pushed for several years now. And how has it impacted energy prices here in Arizona?
Yeah, I was stunned to really, because previously the utilities in the state, at least in 2018, actually they were campaigning against the Green New Deal. And then when Biden threw in $1 trillion or made all this money available, our utilities just made the decision, we're going green. And why? Because that's how they generate the most profits for the utility. And so that's what they did. And that was first announced in about 2020. And then rubber stamped by the Corporation Commission in 2023, who pretty much agreed with this Green New Deal. So they're going to go the ultimate, which is net zero, which means no carbon. That means no natural gas. That means no coal. That means wind, solar, and batteries, pretty much. In fact, they weren't even pushing nuclear as an option. Mm-hmm. So that's a big concern, and that correlates well with these increased rates.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there, and it was about 8 years ago. There was this initiative that was on the ballot pushed by Tom Steyer and these far left Green New Deal zealots trying to get us to adopt mandates in our Constitution, and voters overwhelmingly rejected this. It was 70-30 against the idea of putting green energy mandates into our Constitution. But then right after that, and it shocked us, I was surprised about this as well, that the utilities themselves self-imposed their own climate commitment, saying that they were going to go green and they're going to adopt their own mandates themselves without any sort of coercion or push by the government at all. And that even started before Biden was in there with the trillions of dollars, what you're describing with his plan when he passed in Congress. Do you think that utilities should be able to adopt their own climate commitments like they have been doing for the last several years?
Well, the problem is what they have adopted is not to the benefit of the ratepayers. I mean, the Corporation Commission, the ideal is that the Corporation Commissioners are looking out for the ratepayers to make sure they get low rates and reliable energy. And they seem to have abandoned that whole idea. And from what I can tell, our current commissioners, they could be working for the utilities. I just saw an article in a national publication. It was talking about the profits, massive profits that utilities are making all across the country, massive profits and massive rate increases at the same time. And right on that list in the top 10 utilities making the most massive profits and the highest rate increases, APS. So it's definitely to the benefit of the utilities to go green like they have. But I think they've forgotten about the ratepayers, and they've picked profits over reliability and affordability. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, and that's something that always needs to be pointed out as far as these green energy mandates and what it entails. It's wind, it's solar, battery storage, massive amounts here in Arizona now being slated for the next several years to be built. Even in the case of our two largest utilities, they're planning over 90% right now on new projects will be wind, solar, and battery storage. There's talks about doing new natural gas, which is great. We want more new natural gas on the grid, but even with the amounts they're talking about, it doesn't even change the numbers from 90-10 to 80-20. It's still well over 80% is going to be that green storage. And it's incredibly profitable because utilities get their money from cost recovery on the capital facilities they build. Isn't that right?
People think they're selling electricity. That's how they make the money. That has nothing to do with it. They make a return on equity on all the projects they have. So if they have to put in 3 solar fields to make up for 1 coal plant, that's really going to be triple the profits. So it's very lucrative for them. And when you drive around the state on the campaign, it just makes you sick to see the number of solar fields and the number of wind turbines that are going in. It's just unacceptable. I know they're planning some a project.
It's very environmentally damaging.
Yeah, that's a whole. To even call this stuff green is a joke. And they've got a plant they want to put in wind turbines between Springerville and Cholla, some of the prettiest places in the world right there. They're talking 700-foot tall wind turbines. and a whole number of them over a wide area. They kill every bat and bird and stuff that comes by. They're damaging to the soil. They're, the elk, it affects the environment almost every way. And so, nobody wants it up there.
The Trump administration has been nothing short of amazing on this issue. In fact, what we have seen for up until the Trump administration was there's this kind of consensus, political consensus, I like to describe it, among the insiders that we just have to get rid of fossil fuel use and we're going to go full net zero, we're going to go green, and that's just what's going to happen. And everybody operated within that parameter. Well, then Trump comes along, calls it the green scam, and it feels like he's just snapped everybody out of this trance. And now we're, again, talking about the importance of reliable, dispatchable power that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. From a commission perspective, from a state perspective, how are ways that you think that we could partner with the Trump administration to make sure we get Arizona's energy policy back on track?
Yeah, the energy policy, there are certain things the commission can do and not do. Let's hope we get Biggs in as governor and keep control of the legislature, because between the commission and then Republican governor and legislature, you could actually put up a series of proposals and bills that would actually really help and we could actually mandate some of these dispatchable, reliable energy. But I think the commission needs an overhaul in many ways. It's difficult, it's secretive, the rate-making process is pretty Byzantine, and so a lot of changes. And that's one thing I'd like to see, is just more openness at the Corporation Commission so people can understand how these rate cases go, why they go a certain way, more input from the public. I think right now it's set up to the advantage of the utilities to make it as difficult as possible to even understand how these rate cases work. And you've been down there with these rate cases, you know the difficulties down there.
So from the commission, and you're down there, you're working on this, what role do you think the commission should play in, for example, setting that type of energy policy, any role at all? The resource plans, if you look at what the utilities have now, you're looking at resource plans that, again, over the next 15 years, 90% plus of what they plan on building is all green energy. I mean, that's what's on the books. That's what's authorized and accepted by the commission of what the major public utilities want to do here in Arizona. What role do you think the commission should play in shaping that energy policy? Like, for example, with the resource plans?
Well, and that's the big mistake that the current commission really made, was adopting the resource plan. So in 2023, when APS brought their resource plan, their 15-year plan, it was net zero, close the coal plants, the Green New Deal. And, the corporation commissioners have options. They don't have to just accept the plan. In 2017, I think there was a plan presented to the commission. They just sent it back, said, we don't like the plan, give us a different plan. So they don't have to just automatically accept the plan. They can request modifications of the plan. They can put stiffer amendments on the plan so that they have some control there. And I would challenge the utilities. I don't think you have to roll over and just let them do what they want. And that wasn't what was done. That plan was just acknowledged, and the utilities went full bore with that acknowledgement, and pretty much a rubber stamp. And that's how we got to this 90%. Which is unbelievable. By 2028, we're going to have the same energy mix at APS as California. That isn't going to work. They're not reliable over there. It's not affordable over there. And what we're modeling after that, and that's what they've approved. And so thank goodness for President Trump and the Trump energy agenda to get some sanity back. But we need to focus on memorializing that and making sure that can't be changed if the next administration comes along.
And again, that belies the myth that's pushed by this, is that all this energy is so affordable, the green energy is so affordable. We've been pursuing this now in Arizona for a few years now, California a lot longer. At some point you ask, well, where's the savings? Why haven't costs started coming down? It feels like it's always moving in the opposite direction, because once you peek under the hood, it turns out that these energy mixes are significantly not just more expensive, but more unreliable than coal, natural gas, nuclear, and any source of energy. Hydro is great too. We don't have a lot of options left in Arizona to expand hydro, but anything that runs 24 hours a day seems to be the best energy sources for customers. It just seems to be the best long-term deal.
Well, and coal's gotten kind of a bad rap over the years, but the modern coal plants with the modern scrubbers and environmental protections are really pretty darn clean. They're almost in the range of natural gas. And so this idea that it's not clean energy, it's not a good way to go, that's really not true. And the advantage to coal is you can bring in a bunch of coal, you have it there. If you want to ramp up production, you've got it. Whereas natural gas, that's, you had a pipeline, but if something happens to the pipeline, you're out of luck a little bit. So a good mix of coal, natural gas, and get to nuclear power as fast as we can. I mean, that's going to solve a lot of these issues is nuclear power, and that's hopefully where we need to push along to now.
Now, critics will respond often by saying, related to the Corporation Commission, that they're not taking enough action against the green scammer. You can't blame them for not taking enough action. They did enough. In fact, they've taken steps to push back on that, saying that they're supporting these types of energy sources now, and that there's not really a problem. Like we could just trust the system and how it's currently being ran. I'm assuming you don't agree with that sentiment and what's being out there when critics say that what you're claiming isn't true.
Well, I mean, they're saying we go for all forms of energy. If we can get the more energy, the better from all sources. But what's not true is that's not what we're getting. We're not getting coal anymore. We're closing the coal plants. We're not really putting many new natural gas plants in. We're putting in solar fields and wind turbines and battery facilities. So it's really not true to say that we're getting all the energy sources. No, we're going green, and that is not going to work. And that's when you get to 90% of the projects that are going in are green energy projects, that cannot work. And we are, in fact, it's so bad right now, over the next 2 or 3 years, we've got to turn this around. We're in a hole. And I think we're going to look at some serious energy shortages over the next 3 or 4 years. With this AI stuff, I mean, the amount of energy needed just for artificial intelligence, the data centers, is off the charts. We could double our energy requirements in 4 or 5 years. Well, what we're doing right now is not going to cover that. So we're already in a dangerous spot where we're going to have some shortages. We're going to have continued price increases no matter what we do.
Yeah, and you mentioned that all of the above, because I've heard that for years, and it's never made sense to me, because they'd say, well, we need all of the above. We need to have all the energy sources. And my first question is, well, why? If there's one energy source, hypothetically, that provides the cheapest, most reliable power, why does it matter if you get 100% from that? It seems as if we're pursuing a goal for the sake of just pursuing a goal, that we just need to have multiple sources. And I almost get the sense that is the talking point used to justify and excuse the idea of including costly, unreliable sources like wind or solar as part of the mix, because then it's all the above and it just feels good,
Yeah, my opponents say that almost every time I hear them speak, too. We got to get all of the above, but we're not getting all of the above. We're going one way right now under their leadership. So that's the frustration.
Yeah, and I would say you can look at all the above, but we should prioritize reliable and affordable over that. That should be the mix. It just seems there's a lot of confusion about this, because sometimes I don't think people even know when that's talked about from regulators or from people within the energy industry what that exactly even means, because I think it's just let's do all the above, because who can be against that? It just sounds so good. So Casey Murph, I'm sure you've heard his name. He's been out there on social media. He's a rancher up in northern Arizona. He's become one of the leading voices against some of these massive wind and solar farms being built up in northern Arizona, whether it be in Apache or Navajo County. It's gotten a lot of attention because even now it turns out a lot of it's state trust land. And it turns out our current governor is greenlighting and rubber stamping and prioritizing building these massive facilities. Some of these projects are going in front of the commission because you do need to get some levels of commission approval and review on some of these projects. Is there anything that the commission can do related to any of this to get the utilities to maybe take a second look or pause or even stop these projects being pushed up there in northern Arizona?
There are several things we can do, and I know you take the projects that are in the Cholla area. They've got the big, large wind projects. There's a bunch of solar projects all the way from Cholla to Snowflake. And what they're doing, nobody's in favor of these projects up there. We're talking 90% of the people do not want these. They've got large groups of people. They've come down to the commission, and they seem to just go right on through. And I talked to the head of the County Board of Supervisors in Apache County, and normally the county is supposed to, give a stamp of approval on these projects. But they're trying to get around it by saying, well, it's all on state land or it's all on private land. So they think since that's the case, they can bypass the Board of Supervisors. What I would do as a commissioner, first of all, is I say, no, we're never going to bypass the Board of Supervisors. That's a technicality. The people in the areas have to approve it. And that has to come through the Board of Supervisors. That gives us one more layer of protection because they're not going to tend to go against 90% of the people that want something a certain way. And we shouldn't force that stuff down. And you're right about the solar projects. Katie Hobbs has a solar map, a map of the state where they've put all these spots where it would be really good for solar, and they prioritize solar. But it's not cost effective. Last year, we spent in tax savings just for solar, $179.2 million. That was what we lost in tax revenue for these solar projects. So
various like subsidies we have on the books now.
Yep,
180 million bucks.
180 million bucks just for the tax subsidy alone on the solar projects, and so none of these things really make sense when you pencil them all out. They say they're inexpensive, but when you really levelize everything out and see what the cost is, they're not expensive, and that's obvious.
And I'm assuming that's going mostly to these industrial-sized projects. Is
correct?
That
correct.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh well, this is a discount for people wanting to put something on the roof. These are large subsidies for. And oftentimes, in most of these cases, billion-dollar companies. Some of these corporations are foreign-owned, like foreign-owned corporations that are getting these.
Most of them.
Yeah. And so that's where that's going. That's where these subsidies are heading to.
Yes.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right. We're going to close with a few lightning round questions here, Ralph. Couple sentences for each if you want to answer any of these. First question. You're still at the legislature now. You just finished up your last year there. What will you miss about it?
Well, seeing how the sausage is actually made is not always a good thing. So that's been a little bit of an eye-opener just to see how things go back and forth in the legislature. So I won't miss too much about the legislature, but it is interesting, and it's important to be involved in all these issues. And really, for example, these energy issues. I had no idea how bad the utilities were and what had really happened with our power generation. So it's been a learning experience. That's been good, and I've met a lot of great people. So,
what's the most important race on the ballot besides your own?
We got to get the governor's race. I mean, that's the key to everything. I think Biggs would be a wonderful governor, and he's a conservative guy, and I think he's got a plan to really change things. I mean, we want to be Florida, and I think that's his goal. So that's the most important race.
Looking ahead to the general election here, will you be debating the likely Democrat nominees for the Corporation Commission? The Democrats themselves have already come out and said they want to see elimination of all fossil fuels and get the state back on, turbocharging the green scam. Will you debate them if they want to debate?
I would love to debate them on that very topic, and that would be an easy debate for us. So yes, I'd love to debate them on that.
Right now we have, for our public utilities, they're granted monopolies by the state. Would you support utility competition?
We absolutely need more competition in the utilities. Some states have tried that, and it hasn't always been as successful as I'd like it to be. So, it needs to be done carefully, but absolutely some competition would be good. I think, for example, with the small modular nuclear reactors that could be coming online that can generate a lot of power, maybe a local city or a small power company gets a nuclear reactor, they can sell maybe out of their area. And there's some options there that could lead to a lot more energy and some competition. So I'm totally in favor of that.
For heavy power users, data centers, others that consume a lot of energy, Do you support the idea that they could build their own power and provide their own power?
Yeah, bring your own power. I think that's. And we had a bill last year, didn't quite make it all the way through, but that would be the idea, that they bring their own. Not only could they bring their own power, but they could probably generate excess power and actually lower the cost for the average ratepayer. So that would be great.
All right, final pitch. Why should Arizonans vote for you for the Corporation Commission?
I'll tell you, the important thing is I'm for the ratepayers. So I think the job of the corporation commissioners is to make sure we have affordable, reliable energy, and we want successful utilities, but we want to keep the ratepayers at the forefront. I mean, that's the job, and make sure that they have the energy they need, because energy is the basis of our lifestyles, the basis of our standard of living, and we want to maintain that, and that'd be my goal.
Ralph, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
And to everyone watching, thank you again for joining us here in the State Room, where we'll continue to cover the key issues and events that will keep Arizona free. See you again soon.